Thank you. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Ask Osita. Today I will be discussing securing the future of Anambra children through qualitative education. And that's a very important topic for me because I believe very strongly that the future of Anambra State will be anchored on securing the most important resource that Anambra State have. And that resource is our human beings. Anambra State is the second smallest state in Nigeria. So in terms of landmass, we are 4,000 plus square kilometers. We're only second to Lagos State in terms of small landmass. Anambra is one of the most densely populated states in Nigeria in terms of number of persons per kilometer, per square kilometer. Anambra State is erosion prone, so most of our land is being eroded because of our soil structure and the excessive human activity in the state. Anambra State, therefore, is not a state that can become, in terms of land size, we can become a great agriculture state. We can be an agriculture value addition state. We can be like Israel in terms of modernized farming, in terms of bringing out new strategies to farm and technology-driven farming. Also, Anambra State, if you look at it by land size, it means that Delta State with about 18,000 square kilometers, you can have 4 Anambra States in Delta. And I want you to do the arithmetic, how many you will have in Kaduna with 74,000 square kilometers. So our greatest asset is that we have Nnewi, the town with the highest number of millionaires per capita in Africa, according to Forbes magazine. We have the markets. Anambra States are major drivers of the trade business all around, as Pamda in Lagos, even in Balogo market in Lagos, in Idumota, the motor spare parts market, that have now all the way go to Alaba market. Whether you go to Sabongeri in Kanu or you go to the markets in Bayelsa, Anambra people are powering the markets. Or you go to Ladipo in Lagos, or you go to the GSM village, Anambra people are the major drivers of these markets. If you look at the transport business, the interstate transport business, whether you talk about Ekesin, whether you talk about Chisco, whether you talk to the Youngsha Group, Anambra people are powering the transportation industry. If you look at the intrastate transport in most cities, you will find Anambra State people driving that. But all that creates its own dynamic. One of the major dynamics it creates is that it means that despite our poor land structure, despite our not having access to water, which is a scarce resource in the interior of Anambra State, we've been able to overcome our natural disadvantages to create what I call a thriving entrepreneurial and business segment. That is to say, our human beings have been able to employ resources from across the country to create thriving businesses. Therefore, the only investment we can really make for the future is investing in our human beings. Now, let's go to the education sphere. Anambra State is a leading state in education. So we are leading in terms of WAEC results, in terms of JAMB results, in terms of number of admission to university. We and Imo State are topping the chart of those who get admitted to universities every year. But that tells half of the story. The next half of the story is, what type of education are we getting in Anambra State? Now, mark you, Nigeria is ranked 132 out of 132 by the World Economic Forum on education. Nigeria is really an abysmal case when it comes to quality education. If you go by the data from the country, if you go by the information we have about quality education, Anambra State presents an interesting combination. Our mission schools and private schools have continued to show great promise and have continued to push the story of Anambra people. But if you look at UBEC data, the Universal Basic Education, it shows you that there is a gap that needs to be fixed. And that gap is, number one, if you look at our SUBED, the State Universal Basic Education Board, the ratio of our education inspectors who are ICT literate to the schools they're inspecting is very, very low. If you go to the ratio of teachers that are ICT compliant, teachers who are knowledgeable in ICT, to the number of students in the school, Anambra is just about 13%. Meaning, our children are not being trained with the type of education that will prepare them for life in the new world. Now, we have to agree that the world has changed and changed dramatically. 5 years ago, to be able to conduct a live televised show like I am doing today, will require that I will have AIT, NTA, or a big network, deploy an OB van, read for satellite, and connect me in a very expensive scale for me to be able to reach audiences in real time. But if you look at it today, we are having this conversation with thousands of people joining this conversation across the world, just with a tablet, a telephone. So dramatically, the story of the world has changed, that tomorrow's world will be driven by the power of ICT. And I believe very firmly that we need to prepare our children for that future. If you look at the issue of the number of teachers that are ICT compliant, then you look at the number of schools in Anambra that are connected to the internet, that are able to take classes online, go to all the educational resources that are available online. As of today, the answer is almost zero. There is no school with Wi-Fi, high-speed internet access. The former governor, Peter Obi, attempted to do that with Galaxy Backbone, spent about 2.6 billion naira to deploy ICT internet access in all the schools in Anambra. That came to naught. All the computers that were bought and all the monies that were paid came to naught, because the current state government, the Anambra State government under Governor Willie Obiano, did not follow through the directives, did not follow through the implementation strategy to deliver internet bandwidth to all our schools. But that is now history. Going forward, we need to connect our schools to the internet. We need to give our children the new technologies that will drive their knowledge to make it possible for them to become viable and employable citizens of the world. The challenge they have today is that they're no more competing with just Nigerians, they are competing in a global market. The fact that they're not getting employment today is not because they haven't gone to school, but because they don't have the skills that are relevant for education today. Therefore, I think that for us to secure the future, for us to secure the future of our people, for us to secure the future of our children, for us to secure the children, for us to secure the future of our children, we need to do something to make sure that our children of today are getting the education, they are getting the knowledge structure that will make them viable students for tomorrow, viable entities for tomorrow. And that is where my four-step pyramid program comes in. Upon election as the governor of Anambra, we deploy our knives. What does knives stand for? Knives stands for KN for knowledge, V for vision, E for execution, and S for sustainability. We need to, at the baseline, do a baseline study of our school facilities. How many schools exist in Anambra? Whether approved, not approved. We need to know the number of schools that are across the state, and once we know that, then we'll find out how many teachers and what are the ratio of teachers both in public and private school to the students. Then we need to geolocate these schools and see that students across the state, no child in primary school is more than a defined space, distance between the school and the homes. So if we agree that it's 3 kilometers for primary schools, 5 kilometers for secondary schools, we then have to see whether our schools are well located, the spatial location of our schools. Then we have to agree on the standards of our school. What are the minimum standards? I will no more leave the management of our school standards to civil servants. We're going to set up the school monitoring team, the school supervision team for every locality. And in that locality, we'll bring a Catholic priest, an Anglican priest, a Pentecostal priest, the town union of the town that the school is located in, a member of the traditional council, and one age grade representative. And we will train them on the standards for schools and give them the criteria to go and conduct school inspection. All that inspection will be happening with the young graduate that will be the secretary of the committee going with them. He will document all that they have recorded with the predefined criteria. They will mark, they will check the boxes. And after that, we will rank the school, whether the school meets the state minimum standards or it doesn't meet the minimum standards. Now, when we've collected that information from all the schools, in terms of physical infrastructure in one area, in terms of location in another, in terms of teacher, quality of teachers to student ratio, number of teachers to student ratios, and the quality of the teaching faculty they have in the school, we will then give a score to the school. So when you go to the website of the Anambra State Ministry of Education, unlike now that is a static website, you are going to see local government by local government, number of schools that meet minimum standards, number of schools that are below standards, number of schools that are above standards. And with that information, you will be able to see that all the schools in Anambra will meet that standard. Now, we will then give the schools a 1-year plan. They will have to open up with us with a plan to meet the standards. For public schools, the government will invest to meet that standard. For private schools, the government will support them to meet that standard through giving low interest, single-digit interest loans to the schools to meet the standard. Why are we giving the loans? Because we believe that early child education and primary schools, secondary schools is the base of developing a child. So we want to make sure that no child is left behind in Anambra State. Upon doing this, we are going to start what I call the statewide testing. All the penultimate years, primary 3, primary 5, JS2, and SS2, we will conduct a statewide exam that will take place simultaneously across the state. That exam will be powered by either JAM or WAEC. We will pay them for the exam. The state will be on lockdown on that Saturday because we will transfer all the teachers. No teacher will stay in his or her own school. They will go to other schools. So we will allow the students to take the test on test of language, verbal aptitude, quantitative aptitude, and basic sciences. Once that exam is taken and the scores are delivered, we will use the score to rank the schools in terms of their knowledge rate. So the state will now have a state pass rate. So if 60% is the state average, all the schools that fall below the state average, the schools that are within the state average, and the schools that are above the state average will be graded. So that parents can take a decision when they're sending their child to school, whether public or private. You'll be driven more by the data of how much the school ranks within the state and not just by the rule of thumb. With that knowledge base, we will be able to now determine schools by locality, schools by local governments, by areas, by communities that require help. We then go back to the root cause of the problem. They don't have quality teachers, they don't have the proper environment for school learning, and then we will then begin what I call the remedial action. Because side by side with this effort will be our upgrading of our teacher training facility to make sure that we begin to train teachers who are ICT compliant. So we will begin a mandatory certification of teachers through what I call it is an international certification done called the Computer Driving License, ICDL, International Computer Driving License. It is a computer certification program that makes you to understand basic use of computers. Once you pass the exam online, you become a certified ICDL. You become a certified ICDL resource person. So all our teachers who have gone through this process, that will be their promotion exam for their next level to pass through the ICDL. So that we have teachers who are knowledgeable, both public and private school teachers must pass through this process. And then we will deal with the issue of remuneration of teachers. If you are a private school and you cannot pay the minimum fees for teachers, then you will not be allowed to operate your private school. Our teachers have to be well remunerated, provided that there is visibility to the output of our teachers. So far I've told you 3 things that will happen: an inventory of the schools in Anambra State, a school certification process that will involve stakeholders in the community to certify the schools and make sure they meet the Anambra standards. And then the third one, a statewide examination system that will help us know what do our students know and then how to take remedial action. Once we do these 3 things, the next 4 years will require us to map out. The first basic is knowledge. We will get all the stakeholders together with the results of all these exams and all this evaluation that will then lead us to mapping out a shared vision for education sector in the state. So the Ministry of Education, the Teachers Union, the parents, the school owners, we will come together to map out a shared vision. As we map out this shared vision based on the knowledge we have, we will then build the capacity simultaneously of our state institutions, the SUBEB. We will look at the school inspection in the Ministry of Education. We will ensure that the Ministry of Education begins to deliver on its mandate of delivering quality education. So our performance management, key performance indicators for us in Anambra will be how many parents move their children from private school to public schools. We want to return our public schools. We want to make sure that our early child development program and our public schools remains the gold standard in Nigeria. And then, after we map out the shared vision and prepare our organizations for execution, we then begin a sustainability program to ensure that the relevant laws are passed to sustain this effort, to ensure that the key persons involved in this are properly trained and aligned to continue to deliver output. Of course, in my plan, every ministry in Anambra State must deliver its output. You must tell me your key goal as a ministry. Why do you exist? So if you tell me why you exist, then you must show me every quarter what you are doing to actualize the reason for your existence. The ministry will no longer be an end to itself. So the labor unions will be our friends. Why you want the welfare of the workers, you must tell me what the workers are employed to deliver. And we must begin to deliver those. So basically, my education strategy is not about the quantity of education, but I want Anambra State to continue to have the highest enrollment level in Nigeria. We will sustain that. We want Anambra State to continue to have high pass mark in WAEC and JAM. Then we want to expand their opportunities along with the private schools and universities in Anambra to ensure that Anambra indigenes get expanded opportunities to become tertiary institution students. And then finally, I will then try to locate Anambra State to global standards. 2 things I will do to do that. There's a program called the Program for International Student Assessment. It's an OECD country program that I've now allowed developing countries to join. What PISA does is that it will test 15-year-olds randomly chosen in the state and see their level of knowledge on key subjects of basic science, quantitative and verbal reasoning, and then it will rank your state or your country across the world. So today in the world, Finland, Singapore, Guangzhou, Poland are the top leading nations in education. And one of the key characteristics of some of these states is that the education is public school-led. Finland is a public school-led education system. It continues to top the chart. What has Finland gotten right? Finland have also gotten right the issue of curriculum, the issue of devolution of powers to the teachers and to the schools to develop according to their local needs. They've continued to create an index to monitoring outputs from the teachers. So while the teachers have a lot of leeway in determining how their students learn, they also have what I will call, they also have one major attribute from all these countries, the accountability attribute. People are held accountable for outcomes. So I will strive to make sure that PISA accepts Anambra as a region of Nigeria that want to become part of the Program for International Student Assessment. That will be to benchmark Anambra State. If we take it the first year and we come last in the world or we do well, it will allow us the opportunity to go back and take remedial action. And all this process we are following is going to be granular, that if you are from Anambra, if you are an Anambra resident and you pay tax in Anambra, your schools, your students will get quality, your wards will get quality education. And that quality education will mean that we will benchmark the education across first an Anambra standard and an international standard. So I believe that our program of improving our schools' physical infrastructure, of evaluating the test skills, the knowledge skills of our schools, and also of encouraging our teachers and our communities to develop, to have more headroom in developing their work as teachers. And then also to allow our teachers to gain promotion as teachers to the level of a permanent secretary rank without having to leave the teaching profession. We will not allow the administrative staff of the Ministry of Education to be the highest level staff. You can be a teacher and stay on the teacher track and continue to earn the salaries of a principal without necessarily becoming an administrative staff. So my approach to education in Anambra is holistic, but at the key of it are three key outputs we want: a credible education system that ensures that the students abhor cheating, do not have avenues for cheating, and that they get quality education. 2, an education that gives you skills for tomorrow, that prepares you for the world of tomorrow, that gives you the capabilities to have the basic ICT skills to confront the world of tomorrow. And 3, to benchmark Anambra State to international standards and not to Nigerian standards. I believe that with this program, we will be able to structure an education system that will be a model for Nigeria. Now the question is, can we be able to achieve that with all the financial issues? My answer is yes. Our budgets are misplaced. The amount of money we are budgeting for education in Anambra State is too low. So we are going to see at what level we will divert resources from other areas to education. But also we are going to partner with Anambra stakeholders, Anambra in adopt a school model. So all the Anambra millionaires can come and adopt a school in their locality and be able to fund either the physical infrastructure upgrade, the teacher training program, or fund the state evaluation program. So we believe that we can have a unique PPP model that is not profit-driven, but driven around the concept of development, the ability to prepare the next generation of Indian Anambra. So, as I've told you, we will adopt our KNIFES program, knowledge, map out a shared vision, execution capability, and sustainability to ensure that Anambra State begins to develop a world-class education system. The education we have currently in Anambra is working because of the ingenuity and hard work of Indian Anambra. It is not because of a careful constructed program to deliver a defined output in the long term. The old model of delivering education is a failed model. It can't work for Nigeria to continue that process. Finally, I will also do what I call the twinning program to connect Anambra schools to global school brands. So I will take a secondary school in Singapore and make Anambra State a twin secondary school. Who begins to, the teachers and everybody, I will allow them to have exchange of knowledge. I will allow some of our students to go on exchange programs abroad so that they will begin to get a sensing of what a school is like and the whole idea of socialization that goes with a school. In that regard, part of my strategy is that Kigali cannot be the only country in Africa that has been able to attract a Carnegie Mellon University of the US to come and set up in Kigali. I would like to see the Anambra State University aligned to a global brand, to the National University of Singapore, to an Ivy League Cornell University, to begin to award our programs, to certify our programs to global standards and award a joint degree between like the American University that is based in Yola. We can work with them to adopt their standards in the Anambra State University to be able to award a global brand, Anambra State University, a joint degree by Anambra State University and a foreign university. All this is in an effort to do what the Indians have done with their Institute of Management. The next segment of education that I will concentrate on, and the current Anambra State government have paid a cursory attention to it, is the issue of vocational education. Now, the NBTE have adopted what they call innovation centers, a 2-year diploma program, post-secondary diploma program that you can then from there proceed to university. I will ensure that the innovation centers in Anambra is aligned to our vocation centers, that people who go to our vocation centers will learn real skills. Anambra State will go back to the trade test. Now, if there's any construction site going on, as you submit your building plan approval, you must submit the list of workmen that will work on your site. And those workmen must be people that have the trade test certification from Anambra State government. We will have inspectors going around the state. Anybody that is working in a site that doesn't have the state certification will pay a penalty. The owner of the house will pay a penalty. The whole idea is to encourage a new level of education that teaches people real skills and also make sure that they are employed compulsorily by those who do projects in the state. So education for me is about securing our future. It's about investment in our most important resource. Lagos State gets most of its revenue from its internally generated revenue. But so many people haven't figured that Lagos State's IGR, 65% of that IGR comes from personal income tax. It doesn't come from property. It comes from personal income tax. And the implication of that means that once you have viable human beings who are able to become economic players and who are able to invest or become entrepreneurs, the state benefits more by making sure that they live in Anambra State, they pay their taxes here, and everybody benefits. So investment in the human resource is an investment that is worthwhile and is capable of giving us immediate returns. Currently, cost Anambra State somewhere around 400 and something thousand to educate a student through JSS. I think I saw a master's degree thesis where somebody said it cost the state about 440,000 naira for the first 3 years, and I think about another 600,000 if you calculate the cost of training a student. And that cost is lost once the students finish from university and they all head out to Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt, the Golden Triangle. I want Anambra to join that to create a new square, a 4-point square of Lagos, Abuja, Anambra, and Port Harcourt. Because the triangle, you can measure, as Minister of Aviation, 90% of the revenue to run the Ministry of Aviation comes from Lagos, Abuja airports, and Port Harcourt. In fact, if you add the three, it's about 95% of the revenue. The passenger traffic to these 3 airports is what drives the airport system. If you go by my data as Corps Marshal of Federal Road Safety, transportation trips to Lagos is the highest trip destination from across the country, meaning that the economic centers of Nigeria are drawing the human resource that we require for development in the other areas. My job, an education hub, a technology hub, and also a trade and e-commerce hub. That will ensure that this square, within 4 years, will be able to begin to talk about a square, putting something in the triangle. Otherwise, after all the investment in education, our people will migrate away to those areas that there are economic activity. And the moment they migrate away, the implication is that those who are left behind in the states are those who are poorly educated, those who have no jobs, those who have no life skills, and the cycle of poverty will continue to grow. Therefore, when Anambra people go to vote in this election, what they'll be voting for on November 18 is not about the past. It's not about a government that is celebrating the ordinary. They have a choice to elect a government that turns Anambra State into one of the nodal points of a new Nigerian square, turning us away from a triangle to a square that allows Anambra State to be a competitor in the demand and the pool for human resource. It is human resource that develops a country, not infrastructure, not money. You can build the best infrastructures you like in a state. Without the requisite type of human beings, that country will not grow. So I call on all of you in the Anambra, on November 18, I ask you to vote for United Progressive Party, to vote for UPP, the party of the tiger. Ebe Selisiago, Kaiwe Nwike Weluche, Ife Jimalo Ndebo, Weluchu, Ife Jimala Kanika Dena Wambo, Welebu Chuku, Wedozi Anambra. In rebuilding Anambra, I believe that the 4 cardinal points of Nigeria cannot but be Lagos, Anambra, Oka, Onitsha axis, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. And I believe that if we invest in our human resource, if we improve our urban planning strategy and do the basic urban planning skills and invest in basic infrastructure, if we invest in our schools, especially the primary schools, we will be able to attract back into the state a new level of middle-class youngsters who will come here to do coding, to do app application development, because the infrastructure for tomorrow is here. Bringing high-speed internet. On the Lagos, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Enugu Onitsha Express Road, we have fiber cables on both sides, Enugu bound and Onitsha bound. And I believe the ones on the Onitsha bound side will use it to extend infrastructure to Anambra North, or out the way down to Ayamelum. The ones on the eastwards will use it to extend it all the way down to Nnewi and Axis. And also on the Onitsha Weri Road, we will reconnect through Ihiala, Nnewi South, high-speed internet, to make Anambra the preferred destination for e-commerce, for trade, for logistics, and most importantly, for development of human beings. Part of the education indicators I want Anambra people to hold me accountable to is number of non-Anambra residents who move their children to schools in Anambra because they want quality education for them in our public schools. Neba, and make a no, when are you? Obun no chok ifeni na unku. Obun no chok ifeni na ege me baga nambrulu. Kobuli ife gaga niru, and my on November 18, to Osita Chidoka, the UPP candidate, Ebe Selisiago, so that we can build a new future for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The first question we'll take PCB is asking, admission into tertiary institutions is still an issue. How do we ensure admission for Anambra people?
Okay. First, I believe that Anambra people will have access to admission if we expand opportunities for education here. And the biggest expansion we can have is to make it possible that we lower the cost of private schools in Anambra State. So as the governor of Anambra State, I will make some tactical investments in the private institutions. I will provide them some services and I will give them some, I will let them forgo some costs that will normally go with the state so that they can transfer the savings to Anambra residents through an in-state tuition policy. Any Anambra resident that is resident here and pays tax, because I don't believe in indigenship. Every Nigerian is an indigene of Nigeria, so you have equal rights in every state in Nigeria. As a governor of Anambra State, I will abolish indigenship in Anambra State. We'll be talking about residents. We cannot have two nationalities in Nigeria. So anybody that have access to that education who is a resident of Anambra will get the access to in-state tuition. And that in-state tuition is what will drive expansion of opportunities for Anambra residents. And we believe that that will make it possible for our people, our missionaries, our big men are investing in tertiary education, but we're going to make it viable for them by providing some state rebates, some tax rebates, and also some capital investments that will make it possible for them to transfer the benefits to Anambra residents.
Okay. Mr. Eze would like to know, he says, I love this aspect of ensuring that teachers get paid the minimum salary as agreed by all stakeholders. How would you verify this, bearing in mind that culture plays a role in our day-to-day affairs? People will not report this underpayment for fear of losing their jobs. How will your government ensure this is fully implemented and monitored?
Well, technology is our friend. So, part of what I'm creating in the state is what I call the statewide education portal. So every school must submit its payroll system for our tax purposes. And we have a minimum we expect every teacher to be earning. So if we deduct your tax more than you are earning, of course the teachers will protest. So we're going to base our tax template on the agreed payment format. So if the teachers are not getting the net of what the tax, after tax, of what they're supposed to get, I don't believe there's any culture that will make that teacher not to speak out. And also, with the improvements we'll have in education, the requirement for skilled teachers will increase dramatically. So teachers are not going to be afraid of losing a job because there are other job opportunities for them. And because we maintain minimum standards in the state, it will take us some time. There will be a lot of change management, cultural issues to manage, but we will be gradual. We will not take a one-size-fits-all. We're not going to take drastic immediate actions. We're going to take graduated action that means that a lot of change management communication is followed through to make sure that people understand that it is in the interest of everybody to do that which is right.
Okay, before we take the next question, just a comment from one of the people who tuned in. Victoria Mungu says, with all these strategies targeting the youth, the greatest resource and currency of the future, Anambra will be a pace setter in Africa. Nyagazi.
Thank you.
How would you revamp learning of Igbo language and cultures?
Interesting question. So, as a private citizen, one of my major pastime and my major area of interest is Igbo language. So, I set up a foundation called Nkemefuna Foundation. The idea of Nkemefuna Foundation was a foundation to promote Igbo language, Igbo music, and ICT. So the Nkemefuna Foundation is the owner of the ICT hall we have in Ubosi, where we currently train ICT students in ICT skills. We also have a hall where we conduct Igbo music competitions, and then also we've been sponsoring Igbo essay competitions among secondary school students. Because I didn't want it to be politicized, I've been doing it quietly. We've also sponsored Igbo Bible quiz programs in some churches in Anambra State. I believe that revamping the Igbo language is something that is almost critical, but it's something that we have to also try to do it in a way that is part of the strategies for today. And let me say this, in the course of doing the programs from Nkemefuna Foundation, I have found out that Fino singing in Igbo has made it easier for young children to learn Igbo than me talking to them in Igbo. Young people trying to understand what Flavor is saying in Igbo is making Igbo cool and hip for them. So we have to combine a lot of strategies. One is that it's called mother tongues, and we will hold mothers responsible for this. Apologies to all my female friends and also my wife. We will hold women responsible for ensuring that our language is sustained for the next generation. I believe that we should all, as Igbo people, frown at mothers and children who can't speak Igbo as a matter of course. When you enter a house of your friend, of your neighbor, please do not speak English to the children. Speak Igbo to the children, embarrass the parents. Let them know that it is local, not to let your children learn your language. Because your language is your identity. The whole fight for Igbo identity will come to naught if in 20 or 50 years' time, the idea of Igbo language now becomes a relic of our past. So I think there will be a new resurgence of Igbo language because I will make sure that I embarrass the parents who are refusing to teach their children Igbo language. I will ensure we will also begin to use new ambassadors and champions for the Igbo language, especially the Nollywood people, the music people, who will continue to sponsor and support Igbo movies, Igbo music, and the translation of important works into Igbo language. I miss Tony Base here, who as a young child, I read Isiaku Daranala, I read Okwa Ruoge, but today I don't think there are any Igbo novels for my children to read that is contemporary, that speaks to today's issues. So being able to get children to learn language, to have things to read in Igbo language that speak to today's issues is critical. And also ensuring that the Igbo keyboard is developed and made available to everybody that is Igbo so that we can type in Igbo with the hyphens and our tonal, the nature of our tonal language that Igbo is, to make it possible for us to use. So Igbo language is of a cardinal issue to me. I'm a major proponent of Igbo tradition. That's why I belong to my the Igbo cabinet in Ugosi. I belong to all the traditional societies here, and I ensure that I encourage our community to perform our traditional rites to ensure that our culture does not die. So Nkemefuna Foundation's major goal is that Nkendi Igbo Amefu, and I will make it a cardinal issue in Anambra State as governor of Anambra to promote our language and our culture.
Thank you. We'll take another reaction and then one question. Kingsley Chima says, you have what it takes to be a governor. More grease to your elbow. Wishing the Anambra people will key into this man's ideas and programs. Best among equals. I will urge you all to go out there on the 18th of November 2017 and make this a reality.
Thank you very much. I appreciate.
Technical education is now lagging behind. How do we get our youth trained in technology?
Yes, I talked about the innovation centers and working with the MBTE to certify our schools. We can't talk about technical education without talking about the employment opportunities for technical education. So what is killing technical education, or what killed it in the past, was the fact that people will go and finish all the technical and vocational training and begin to compete with untrained people for jobs. So I will promote it from the supplies, from the demand side. I will ensure that nobody does any work that is acceptable in the state without a certification. So that way we will force people to want to go back and learn technical and vocational education. So, and when they are sure that there is a market for it, we can't be talking about it in a vacuum. And why do I have to go and learn masonry or carpentry when the carpenter next door in Obosi here, who didn't go through any school, who just learned trade under Papa Anthony, is also opening up a shop and doing the same work? So we have to go back to standards, certification, and enforcement. One of the major challenges of the current government in Anambra State is that they only enforce collection of levies and duties from poor people. We need to enforce our rules. And I will, as governor of Anambra, ensure that once we have agreed with stakeholders, once we have adopted an Anambra standard, we will be relentless in the enforcement.
Thank you. So our last reaction and question. Robinson Emeka Ikwe says, visionary leader. On November 18th, the entire students and young people of Anambra State will definitely give you their votes.
Thank you very much.
Then Kevin Onuja is expressing a fear. He says, I like you for the little I have watched you, but my fear is if these cabals will allow fairness to thrive in the election. All the same, good luck.
Thank you very much. And I feel you. I can understand your fears. But the biggest fear in this world is fear itself. I believe that all of us coming together, deploying our God-given talents, utilizing the technologies that are available today in all our polling units, we will be able to overthrow those cabals that have halted our development as a people. We will be able to overthrow those forces that have continued to hold us down and refuse to allow us to join the modern world. We will on November 18 sound out the biggest referendum of our time, that let us with one voice acclaim Anambra belongs to us and we will take it back. Anambra does not belong to the godfathers. Anambra does not belong to those who feel that they will determine who will rule us today and determine who will rule us tomorrow. Democracy is government of the people, by the people and for the people. I want the people this time to come out and speak in one voice. Across the country, people are coming out and speaking. The people of Kano in 2003 removed Governor Kwankwaso and elected a retired principal, Shekarau, as governor of Kano State. He ruled Kano for 8 years and Kwankwaso came back as governor. Because democracy works in Kano State. If you Nigerians, you may be young to know that in 1979, when the issue of 12 to 3rd, whether President Shagari got 1/3 of the votes cast in the 13th state, that 13th state was Kano, because Shagari could not make 25% of the votes cast in Kano because of a man called the PRP candidate, the leader of Talakawas in Kano, Malam Aminu Kano. Aminu Kano, a poor man but a representative of the Kano people, consistently won elections in Kano. Kano and Kaduna was always a PRP state. He always won under NEPU. So I believe that Anambra people should stop living in fear. We should stop lamenting on social media and talking about the cabals. Nobody is stronger than the people. I challenge Anambra people that the time has come for our people to stop sitting back and lamenting. It is our time to go out in the street and take our destiny in our hands. Take our fate in our hands. And on November 18, say it with one strong, loud voice. Anambra belongs to us, and we're not going to submit our sovereignty to anybody. The colonial masters tried imposing warrant chiefs on us, and our people resisted it. Igbo women came out in Aba and rioted against an unfair tax system. Our coal miners rose up and fought against poor treatment by our colonial masters in Enugu. Zik was in the harbinger of democracy and independence in Nigeria. Once again, Anambra has produced Kondelemeko Domegwu, who stood firm against the Nigerian state to protect the interest of Ndi Igbo. Now is another time for us to step out on November 18 and elect a government that reflects our aspirations, that speaks to our hopes, that gives us the opportunity to say to the whole of to Nigeria and to the world, we, the people of Anambra State, have chosen our leader, and we will stand by that leader. The ball is in our court, not in lamentation, not in talking about what can go wrong. Let's talk about what can go right if we work together as a collective. Thank you very much, and I hope that next week, we will try to increase the frequency of these because I have so many issues to deal with, and next week we'll be dealing with more issues or within the week as we get time off our campaign to keep talking to Anambra and to the world at large, our plans to making Anambra State a model state. Let's work together to make Anambra great. Thank you. So, I believe that on a final note, I ask you to come out on November 18 and cast your vote for UPP, the United Progressive Party, Ebese Lisiago. That vote will be a vote for securing the future of our children. Thank you very much.